Mike is here, Sue is here, John is here, Ellen is here, Dave, Dan, Kemp, Dean, Sue DePretis, and Jeff Putnam, and Mike McKenna. You cannot forget Mr. McKenna. Yeah. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
That's right.
Okay. Pat, second?
I'll second.
Second. Ellen? Any discussion, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay. Next one, public participation. Any public? All public. Okay. And discussion and action on the turf project. Yeah, John Janey's on there, on Zoom.
The Zoomer.
The Zoomer.
Dan's just getting set up here.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Should I sing? No?
I don't know, how,
Yeah, no,
have you gotten any better?
no. Thanks.
Have you been rehearsing?
Yeah,
The fiddler on the roof.
yeah. Yeah, Passover's coming, Easter's coming, everybody's coming.
Yeah. The first year you gave me this. Fell straight through.
That was on purpose, just like you know.
My large frame. If you
Oh,
sat
my
high, tall, that would be down.
Off I sat. Yes, I did a tour of
Not
the
soon.
softball folks in Torrington. Down to the woodland.
Is that right?
Are you ready? Roman out. Turn it into a softball. That's right, they were.
His head or the top?
What I heard. Both. Steve.
Yeah.
How are you?
So my IT support team is supporting. Perhaps I should just give you a little background on what's been going on. So we've been pulling together pricing for about a month and working through diligently the takeoffs and the effort to qualify the numbers that we did get. So that's why 3 weeks ago, I believe, plus or minus, I created an updated document of the estimate that we had all looked at about 2 months ago. That document was the first evolution of the pricing that I had gotten and estimates that I had created for each various scopes of work. That was superseded with a preparatory email and agenda that Ed sent out a week ago in a couple of days. And then we sent it out again on Tuesday, and then the document was just updated again. She found it about an hour and a half ago. Okay, the difference between the documents is just refinement of the estimate numbers. And in the document or in the email that I shared out to the community an hour ago, plus minus, there were two documents. One was the estimate, which includes the O&G O&G cover sheet, itemizing the cost of the work overall. And then a second document that I wanted to be able to provide to all to let you know how close we are to the final number. And that would be my, what's left to resolve. And that was the single sheet that I passed out earlier. I have all, let's see if I know how to share my screen digitally, so you can look at it in front of you, or you can look at it on the monitor at the front of the room. Let's see, is this the right button? Oh, maybe not.
And then you can just share if you have, because it's all PDF, right?
Right, everything's in the video. Yep.
Oh, that's actually Excel.
That's moving.
That's
Oh, we gotta find a way to stop that share and do it now. There we go. So again, just as the history of the evolution of this change, SLAM has presented a PR 87 to us, which included a myriad of drawings as well as a couple of specifications to identify scopes of work. We've gone through and sent that out to the impacted trades and have been pulling costs in. So I guess the most important document Okay. So the summary page, if I can walk you through that. He wants to go to the drive.
Grab it from your email. Your son.
Ooh. We got more technology wizards with us here.
I'm here for you, Dan.
You got Jeff.
There we got Jeff too. Load it up.
Can I just ask one question about this first page? I know I said I wrote
Yeah.
so much, but I keep talking.
Oh, you're talking about the narrative of what's left to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you show, just for clarity's sake, the landscape, because it's a big number, I always go back to that.
And that's why I put it on the
I know.
page.
But was that gonna take off, I think were you doing the takeoff on that, or did you get it from Sam or from you?
No, that's my personal take. And just. I thought all of these were on my desktop.
They're right over at the on the far end, right?
Let's do this one.
Well, I don't think we.
Oh, it is retaining walls. So to Gary's question, which was specifically, you know, one of the larger cost items that we haven't got back yet from the trade base is the retaining wall credit. And to explain, you know, just jumping to the bottom of the page, the single page that I passed out, it identifies how I came up with the value of the credit that we're expecting from the trade. Gary's question was, how did I derive that? Am I getting takeoffs from SLAM or in-house estimating or from the trade? They've been done by myself personally. And so you're looking at it on the screen. It's not part of your packet. This is the shop drawing of what the trade provided on the original wall. What you see in red is what is the new wall, just for volume's sake. So, and in blue is what was originally. So I took off how much square footage of face of wall was in both scenarios. Again, red and versus blue. And then I go to the cover and I can tell you that the original square footage of face of block was 5,700. The new face of block is 2,200. The reduced amount is about 3,500. At $32 a square foot, the trade should be giving us back labor only in the order of $110,000. The value that I carried forward from that was only $90,000. So again, I'm always conservative when I'm providing you guys an estimate that every little item that I've had to plug a number in is valued conservatively. Okay, so it means I'm,
Has a little higher, credits are a little
when
lower.
when the values come final, they should be better, more in your favor, whether it's a credit or an ad. If I could explain that any more complicated.
Just
Perhaps,
one
but
more
no need
on that, because we never got it finalized. They said they purchased it, Fuji had said, we already bought it. I don't see,
We're gonna get that, we don't have that proof yet. We will get
because
it.
I don't know where it is.
Right, right. No, and we'll get, before we finalize anything, we will get that proof. Absolutely.
Yep, and they are actually the concrete trade is the one trade that hasn't given us pricing, as well as TC Landscaping. Their TC Landscaping delayed primarily for, they're giving back a lot of money. They're not chasing me to give me back a big credit number. They're probably chasing more work at this time of year. They're gonna go after getting work, not figure out how much they gotta get back on work that they're not gonna get. And then the concrete trade, we know what that value is because we know what their cost per square foot is. So sidewalk is a known unit cost. We did some value engineering back on 327, in which we came up with ways to reduce the amount of concrete, increase the amount of grass a little bit, saves $10 a square foot to do so. But until I see the final drawing from SLAM's group, we're not gonna get that finalized number. But that's another one that doesn't have much variance. The concern is variance. So I guess we
Can I
Dan,
just say
I'm
one-
sorry. Mike, can you please stop? It's very distracting trying to listen to him and you're talking over here. We can't, and it's not just me. The whole room is distracted listening.
We're sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
And just wanna, what has been taking place with some of these VE meetings, they're the exact same thing that happened when we were going through the estimates for the main project, where we had, members of the committee, design team, ourselves, trades in the room, collaboratively, real time, working through things, what was understood to be on the plans, what was needed to be changed, so it was a very, the outcomes that Dan is talking about, all these things where they're VEs, they're not vacuum assessments, they were assessments done with the whole group at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction to make, is that we use the process that we've used throughout, building processes. When we come up with estimates during the schematic and design phases of the project and CDs, we sat in O&G's estimating conference rooms, and we brought in our estimators, and we brought in members of SLAM. So that was a meeting that was held on 3/27. That's when I initially got the numbers in from CJ Fucci. We saw that we wanted to bring down the cost of the project, and we had opportunities to bring down the cost of the project just because we didn't see the documents really needing, they contain some info, they contain some work that wasn't initially contemplated. That meeting that was held on 3/27, the team of three here, plus myself, plus SLAM, plus Banesh, the civil engineer, plus CJ Fucci, we all got together with our estimators and we looked at the various ideas. I think I had about 16 ideas going into that meeting, and that we flushed out and put estimates on, and now have been flushing through getting those finalized costs.
Before I go, to defend the guys up here, I sat on some of the meetings, one of them was 5 or 6 hours. Last 3 or 4 weeks, Mario, Ed, these two, SLAM, Dean was there too, on some of them, input hours and hours and hours. Ed and Mario tried to crush the subs as much as they could. You get the best you can, and I bet you spent 3 weeks going back and forth. It was torturous, but when you give a contract to somebody, then he wants to give you a change order, which is required under this program, which only can be a change order. We're gonna get whatever we can get, whatever he decides to give us. And that's probably been part of the problem, but so far you've done a better job than most, but.
There's just a lot to it. This is, it's
Countless.
it's $6 million worth of work. We're not taking it lightly. There's a lot of
No, you
elements
haven't
to the process that we want to make sure we vetted appropriately. And I'll get into that. What I wanted to make sure is that you understood where the numbers are. So I think I'll just make this a little bit bigger. So this is, again, the same format that I used when we created the initial estimates. The upper part of the estimate, I can't quite clear this completely, is the, so this breaks down site work, this breaks down the trades that are involved. So the first number in the first row is CJ Fucci and their sub-trades. Another subcontractor involved in the work is the metal railings contractor. We're deleting the railings in the old stair system that was there, and we're adding the railings on the ramp now. And then there's an electrical component. And you can see from the values associated with each, oops, I'm not in row mode. Your primary cost here is site work. There it is. It is a touchscreen. I could have been just driving with my finger. So there's the $5.4 million number that goes to CJ Fucci. A couple of the other items that are in this upper section, the unsuitable soil allowance, we did not touch that from the previous estimate. It still sits where it was. We've included a winter conditions or premium labor allowance. Don't think we're gonna need it, but it's not a bad thing for me to put out there that, summertime, we have Saturday opportunity. We're gonna make time, make a little hay when we can. So I carried a cost for that. And then the big difference, we no longer have a foundation and we no longer have a slab. So what we've been doing is been driving this cost down into the budget that we've been given to work with, which is to make the trade cost come in at the $6 million.
you wanted to let them know the building was $500,000.
And buildings, yep, last estimate's up over
That's how much it was.
450.
Yeah. That's why it's not.
Just the building or with the slab?
No, building
With a
was
slab and the build out. Yeah, foundation estimate is now at 120, that's been validated by both concrete, our estimators in concrete, as well as the foundation trade that's on the project. Moving down on the page, it's the standard template that we utilize, so it's got a cost for the permit, it's got the O&G insurance and bonds and fee, and then the CM contingency. We've lowered our contingency on the project, on this portion of the work, to 2%, so instead of 3%. As you continue down the page, you see the breakdown of the owner direct soft costs and what is the add cost for the project. And then below that, you see the values coming back to the city for the reduced scope of work, or for the original scope of work coming back. That's a combination of Liberty Landscaping, who had a turf, they had
Natural turf.
Natural turf, but it's, it's athletic field turf, it's not just grass. As well as a few of their other components, like they provide the softball, or the soccer nets, they provide the foul poles, a lot of work related or site improvements related to the scope. That's all comes back in its entirety, and then CJ Fucci's scope to, earthwork related, topsoil processing, topsoil spreading, that type of work. And again, O&G's reducing their fees and their insurance bonds and fees on the same thing. So that's the cover page. And that's the bottom line, 5.937, that target. The next page that I put.
Does anyone have any questions on the first page before we move on?
Sure. The allowance, so if it's 5.9, then there's 234, where does the 234 come from?
The 234.
It's the geotech
Software,
slam
that's,
design,
that's included in the 6,171,077.
right, so that's, at that point, a little over 6 million then, right?
That's right. Now, 6.2 would be actually the total, that we're looking at for cost of the work. You are accurate in that it's a $6 million cost to the construction side,
Sweet.
and a soft cost side of 230.
So we would have to get that number down to 6 million even, not to exceed the overall approved project cost.
Well, we use a credit for that.
Right, you're well below your
Yeah.
Oh,
The
it's before
mandate
the
established by
credit.
the
Got it.
state is 6 million total, including costs and credits.
It's before the
So
credits.
you're within
You're well
your,
within.
you're well within your state
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
approved amount. So where the first page pulls the CJ Fucci number from is from the second page. And that's an itemization of their costs. They have both self-performed work, it's identified in the upper section, and then they have subcontracted work. So when you bring that down and you subtotal it, I think it's appropriate, they put in the bond premium, we weren't gonna get hit by that. You should recognize that all the change orders for the project, all the trades have the contractual capability of asking for additional bonding costs. If their contract went up, they send a letter to their bonding company responds with their cost in their contract increase, and by contract and state statute, they're able to capture that money.
They have
We want
to
capture
show
that.
us an invoice for that additional money.
Right, we validate it before we approve the change order, but it is the cost of the work, and it's great that $50,000 has been encumbered.
Right, and we can't actually submit that until the end of the total project, that's how the state works, they don't want the bond changed on change to change, but because of the magnitude of this one change, it's in there because that's a measurable amount of money after the fact. When their bond premium comes in at the end of the project, it's gonna be highly inflated because of the extent to which their work was expanded, which is why it's here, and why you don't see it in any of the other changes that we've been processing throughout the project.
453.60. Going back to the first page, that's the first line. All right, so here I'm circling on my little screen, 5,450,000, and that's where I get it. I get it from the culmination or the a total of CJ Fuji's contract change. Below that, listing of all the VEs. We had our list of the first 13 came from that meeting on 3/27, and then an additional 8 have come since. And what I've done is I've not, they're not all lump summed, they are taken from the individual lines above. So where you'll see in the grading line, it states that site grading is $158,315, and it includes VE item number 15. If I scroll down on the page, I get back down to see VE item 15 is raising the softball and varsity ball fields up 3 inches. It reduces the amount of export, and therefore we're looking to capture that as a VE option. The grading plans were finished up by SLAM a couple of days ago. Those are back to the trade so that we can work through. I guess this would be a great opportunity to show you the next page. So this is the page that actually came from the trade. So the next page shows a grading earthwork component. And it says under grading and earthwork in the middle of the group, it says cut to waste and excess material haul out. It's got a value of $58,440. That's based on 2,000 yards of export. I put in the right-hand column in my handwritten note that I've included a 20K estimate. Again, I'm conservative. Our goal with the raising of the grades is we're picking up about 1,000 yards of material gets to stay on property. So really, I should be getting around $29,200 for that, should all things come together as we planned. But I'm only carrying 20,000, I've only reduced his price by 20,000. Is that, and so you're getting the gist of what I'm putting out there is that I've always been a little bit more conservative as I produce the estimate.
So question, I think in our last meeting, we talked about, I think it was mentioned that that more fill needed to come out. So what happened in between that where we're able to leave more in?
So when you say, so
Yeah.
we've been working the grades on the site.
Okay,
And so the last effort, and the last place we worked those grades was in the varsity softball and baseball. They raised the grade 3 inches, which means we're not exporting that square footage of earth off property.
Was that one?
But there was a blip on the radar that was a much bigger number, and that was somewhat of the result of just trying to do things very quickly. And actually, it turns out that there was something at the site where contractor had a difference in his computer program. That was more of an error than anything else. There wasn't anything drastically that changed with the design. It was just,
Mario had a stroke.
and it was
You're going back to the
I didn't give him mouth to mouth, I just wanted
and it
to,
was, and we were looking at numbers
day?
multiple
Yes.
times a
it was
day.
$707,000.
That was not a good day. for
That
us.
was not a
We
good
found
day.
that out at
was not a
about
happy day.
4:30 in the afternoon, and at 8 o'clock the next morning, he was on the
Made a
phone
mistake.
apologizing for sending out bad information.
okay.
And it-
But those
so it's
things
always been
don't, remember, I did put
Good
it
quality time though, Mario.
Yeah, oh, the paddles.
in the battles.
Let's see, so really the backup beyond that is from each particular trade contract or sub-trade, in this case. We have finalized pricing from Field Turf. We have finalized pricing from Liberty Landscape, with a couple of things noted that I, again, incorporated the value into the final numbers that culminate or bring into the summary. Couple of little things, I guess, I can explain, but there's a lot of little minutia out there, so
You just gotta tell
can't
them,
explain a lot of them.
maybe just tell them what page to go to there, just so they can keep up with it.
So I'm sorry, as I kept going through the document, I flipped through Field Turf. Their proposal is firm. We did go back then to them for one VE item, which was to reduce the number of replacement areas they provide as part of their initial bid. High-use areas, instead of 6, they're gonna give us 3. It should take you, into the future. And actually, I can identify that a little bit more. Okay. In their proposal, it actually lists out exactly how many mounds they're providing and how many heavy-duty areas or high-use areas like the pitchers, the the catcher's box, the batter's box, you know, those kind of.
Yeah.
Let's see, so as I move through the proposals, I got through Field Turf, and then I get to Liberty. You can see the itemization. O&G has taken these items, you see some of these items have unit values. In previous editions of the Liberty proposals, we've gotten better quantity clarifications, and we've done O&G's comparison of both quantity and value, so that we are now at a point where we're comfortable with Liberty's scope of work and their cost is associated with it. On the bottom of the page, he's identified a few things, and I can just quickly explain that if he carried a perimeter drain on the first field on the north side, but after vetting that with Vinesh, the drainage that goes towards the east on the side of that property does not need a collector drain. So we don't have a collector drain on that east elevation, so we don't need that cost. The ad alternate, he was always providing an ad alternate for the safety netting. The safety netting is a larger topic we can touch on in a couple minutes, but this needed to get broken out because we were unsure as to the extent. So that's why it's identified as accepted. And then the soccer goals is also something that we needed to include in the project. The anticipation here is that we're getting 2 new soccer goals, and we're going to reuse 2 soccer goals for the now 2 multi-purpose fields. So that's the first page of his proposal. It's broken out by JV baseball up here and highlighted on JV baseball and multi-purpose field, the upper left. The next page of his proposal is the varsity softball, varsity baseball with the multi-purpose field, you know, that extends to the east. The other item that's in here I wanted to mention is that in the contract documents, one of the VE items is to go from what's known as a polyboard bench. Polyboard benches are okay if they never get wet, and they're very expensive. So instead of going down the path of the specified polyboard bench, we went down the path of an aluminum bench. It's a good sturdy bench, it still has a back to lean against, and the savings there, as you can see, it's significant. By taking them out of the JV baseball field, we're saving $36,000 and spending $10,000. So there's a net savings of $26K on that line. So that's Liberty's proposal. Similar situations on the last page for what would be the varsity softball field. And then total costs for what would be his change to contract. How we worked it with Liberty Landscaping is they gave back their entire contract. And so I went to CJ Fucci and I said, give me a copy of their contract. And this is what you see. This is considered Exhibit A in the contract between CJ Fucci and Liberty Landscaping. It's kind of itemized in the same way. This goes back to 2022. So that's a 2-page document, and that's where the $1,033,606, that's what he's giving in its entirety. And then his new proposal, if you sum them up, and you get to the 2.9 million. Eagle fence is a little harder to manage. The takeoffs were not even close to mine, and it's another large dollar value. I've been using a few negotiating techniques, I'll leave it at that. In my next meeting with them is tomorrow, in which I'm flushing out, you know, things that I think I can grab savings on. And just, you know, something to note in their proposal is the netting. When we got their proposal for what was the proposed ball field netting on the site, we saw the ad cost of $455,000, and we started to dig in. You know, the first meeting that we had, we all, in that, you know, March 27th ball field netting plan, we identified areas that we didn't need, or should say we can't afford to provide, you know, netting to this extent. I want to mention that when we all sat and agreed, and initially, we didn't have this much netting, so it's not like we're taking things away.
In the base contract.
Right, there was one section of safety netting in the base contract. I can actually show you. This is one section, so if you refer to the screen, this is not in the packet that you have, this is just, you know, takeoff work that's been done. This is the base bid document. The only netting that was in the base bid document was along the right-hand side of what was the only multi-purpose field back then. And now, in the new set of documents, there was protected 20-foot tall netting along this side of the now JV baseball field, this side of the JV baseball field, this side of the soccer field, and netting along between what is the junior varsity softball field and the tennis courts. The new proposal is provided, in my estimate, eliminates this area that's been hashed out in red and includes this area that's still over the tennis courts. On the next page, we're including netting on this side of the field, of the driveway coming in. Again, in the stripe it's hard to see the blue. This one side, or the left-hand side of the multi-purpose field, as well as and JV baseball field, this gets 20-foot tall netting. We've eliminated the netting around the backstop area. We've eliminated the netting along the backstop area, beyond the backstop area, on the sides of the varsity softball. Just a big number, so I wanted to touch on that one.
And this is one of those items too, that there's been an immense amount of conversation among, the building committee, design team, us, trade, the athletics department. I think Dean, I don't know if you were even in that meeting, there's been, these revisions and tweaks are not ones that have been made in any sort of vacuum. They've been talked about almost ad nauseum at this point, so. We've got a good scope of work. Now it's a matter of bringing the trade in line with what we believe is a fair and reasonable price for the revisions that we've gotten to.
Go ahead, Don.
All right, so again, going back to this.
Wait, I just wanna ask, just because I feel like we should go on record, but there's no safety issues with reduced netting.
No, I mean, again, none of this netting was in the base bid.
Some of it.
Right, you've never had netting, when you drive down Daily Drive
It was never.
for the JV
Yeah.
baseball field?
Right.
You've never had a 20-foot tall
baseballs.
safety net protecting that road?
Yeah.
But
But we haven't
really,
lost anything that was in the base bid.
No.
No,
No.
yeah,
right,
that's what I just.
you had the 217 feet in the base bid. You currently have, almost 500 feet in what's currently proposed.
So when did it get added and why?
During the redesign, the fields, when the field started, when the outfield of one started not overlapping, but facing, a lot of what occurred, I think, didn't really take into account, softball's a spring sport, soccer's a fall sport, right? That type of thing. So I think Kemp's subs were a little over protective of the student body.
I don't think that's it. I mean, it was in the schematic plan that we were given. That's why it got documented.
Oh, from field turf.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good reason.
That's a really good.
That's a good reason.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry, Jeff, you go first. Go ahead, I apologize.
My question on the netting was, what's the expected lifetime of this? Does it have to be taken down and put up every winter? What's the involvement in having this netting out there? Is it a 5-year net? I mean, UV eats this stuff, so I'm guessing it's nylon or is it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
But it's a lot, only because it's a lot of money. Everybody said, hey, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do we need to ask somebody for $200,000 again in 5 years or 15 years?
we take the netting down right now. That's down
At the
along the
soccer.
highway.
Along Route 8, on the soccer field.
We take it down. Certainly, if you do take it down, it lasts longer, of course. So whether it comes down or not is, that's a factor of if,
Who takes it down, Mario?
Jesperson takes it down.
right now, yeah.
That's something we've been doing.
Since we've had the net.
Well, we've been doing it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you take down this extra 500 feet, that's that's up to you guys. If you say, obviously, it's a budgetary thing, if you guys don't have the money to take it down, then it's gonna last less.
The netting we have on the Route 8 side of the soccer field, it's been there since we opened the field 10 years ago, and it's still in great shape.
We've never taken it down.
No,
We
no.
take it down
Comes down every
at the
year.
end
Take it
of,
down
at the
and
end
put
of
it
the soccer season.
And what's
it
the
comes
linear
down.
foot of that?
It's a whole soccer field, it's gotta be pushing 360 or so.
And so now we're at, additional?
There's currently, so here's my takeoff of the fence work. There's currently 600 feet of fence. You got 240 feet, that is 10 feet above the 10-foot chain link of the tennis court. And then you've got 364 feet along the side of the soccer multi-purpose field, varsity baseball field. And you can see the values, you know. When he quoted it initially, his value was $57,000 for the first 215 feet. You know, the new scope of work, I'm estimating at around $122,000 with a net cost of 64. So it's a chunk of change.
Are there still backstops though?
Oh, yeah.
The-
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. You have the
This is
backstops, the 30 feet tall, they got a nice hood on them, you know, they're shaped with the hood. And those are on 380 feet.
1 second.
I just had a question, and I think Kemp kind of alluded to it, and I thought, and I don't want to, because Kemp said it was in the design that came over, I thought when we had talked about that, the netting was also in the original, because someone made a comment that we don't want to smash windshields or cars or whatever. So I guess I'm just having, my concern or question is, that shouldn't have been an add-in at this point, because it was already in the original.
No, it wasn't in the base bid, it was in the drawing that Field Turf did.
Correct.
That's
It
what
was in
guidance,
Field Turf Plans design.
that's where Kemp sucked off that information.
The base contract that was part of the original $100 and some odd $1 million project only had the, whatever it was, 200 and.
Down the side.
Yeah, it didn't have
200
any
feet of
baseball
netting.
field safety netting at all.
Correct, but Field Turf, you just said Field Turf had it in that design.
No, Field Turf design came in December of 2024.
I know when it
Which
came
was
in.
not in our original, right, it was, honestly, I don't think anyone was necessarily looking at Field Turf's design from a standpoint of the netting. It was, the main objective of Field Turf's design was the layout of the fields.
Right.
That, not,
Their credit only, Field Turf's credit only goes back to the original alternate that they gave us. When they gave us a new design, this is their new price. And their design showed all that netting. The design they gave us back in December, which meant nothing, because, as I said in another meeting, everything we're getting is a number that's being thrown out because nobody's bid this out yet. Going through all these items, I don't know if you were there, but there was an extra 400 feet of netting in there, which was decided is just not needed. It may be more, but today's not today.
Mike,
If you don't think we did.
what's your concern?
Well, my concern is, it just, I don't know, it just seems as if, I thought, and everyone's kind of alluding to the same thing, it kind of was there, but it wasn't there, and now that we're kind of to the final part, we have to put it in, and I'm not saying we don't need netting, I'm agreeing that we need it. I guess it just, to me, and maybe I'm the only one, and that's fine. I just assumed, maybe I assumed incorrectly, but when we had talked about it, that the netting was in there, so to hear that it was in the drawing, and then to Kemp's point, when he got the drawing, he added to it, but it was already there in theory, and then to Gary's point, well, theory is great, but now there's a number to it, so is that what I'm hearing? So the netting should have been there, and now that we're putting the rubber to the road, the netting is going in for a cost of X dollars, is that the easiest way to explain it?
No, I think it was never determined exactly where the netting should go. I mean, I think, in my opinion, because I remember the conversations about where the ball's gonna go, where it's not gonna go. I personally said we don't need any netting, but that's another story. But I think Field Turf, I'm guessing, I've never dealt with them before, did a layout, which was their design, and said, okay, this is where you could have 1,000 foot of netting.
And it was never really part of.
Nobody would have even thought, at least,
It was
nobody
never
ever
put through the program of your athletic group. Where we looked at this now finalized drawing, having netting, along daily drives is just not needed.
So you send it out to the sub-trades, and the sub-trades, in my opinion, have no legal fence. I wouldn't use them, it's not your choice. They do a lot of work around the state, but they're gonna stick it to us as much as they can, and they're gonna bid the best they can on the most expensive product they can give us, and hopefully it slips through, and if it doesn't, if we go for it, but we can't.
It's not slipping through.
No, it's not slipping through, I agree with you, but
There's one missing piece here. The whole thing was designed before the new New York Yankees bats. So now we can hit the ball way further, and we need the netting.
Yeah, just as a for instance, that main
The Yankees were
sidewalk
the last
coming,
ones to use those bats.
that main sidewalk that comes down the middle of the field had netting on both sides. That's redundant. right? And it's a long
Literally
ways.
on both sides of this driveway.
It's a long way, so you had a long tunnel of 28-foot high netting. So not only did they have too much netting, they had, in our opinion, too high of netting.
Yeah, they misread Slam's documents and quoted the work at a 28-foot tall ultimate height. But Slam's documents clearly state, it's a 20-foot tall net from finished earth elevation.
Mike, is your concern there's not enough netting or too much?
No, as I said, I'm not opposed to the netting. My concern was, I guess, my assumption was that it was kind of rolled in, and then just to see it as just seems like it wasn't, and now it seems like another cost for it, that's all. That's my concern.
There's areas that it is definitely justified, for sure.
I'm agreeing with you. I don't want anyone breaking windshields. I mean, that's not,
Right.
I'm with you,
It's way too much.
but.
Yeah, it is a lot. I mean, listen, that field's been there for 60 years without a stitch of netting.
Yeah.
But there's places where it absolutely makes sense. If there's a home run in the softball game, the netting's gonna stop it from going into the tennis court, right? That type of thing. Netting behind the soccer goals, if there's a high shot during the fall, it's gonna hit the netting.
So you're saying it's where we landed with where the netting is, where we feel is the
Yes,
most critical
yeah.
areas where it's needed.
Yeah, we worked with Mike on that, and we all worked together on it, and yes.
So to Donna's point about safety, right, and you're confident that.
Pretty darn confident, yes, yeah.
Far more than you could ever ask for before.
Yeah.
I think too much, but you're right, safety's important. And if
I have
you
another
deny it-
question, not netting, but fencing. The repairs to the fence around the track field, are those due to construction? Or are they repairs to an existing fence that's just going to be?
I think both. When
I
we,
didn't quite hear the question.
the fencing repairs around the existing complex.
Is in contract.
Yeah. Donna, there is some repair of fencing that got disrupted, but before the project started, the fencing wasn't, it was 10, 11 years old. I had them put in the spec to inspect every gate in that stadium field.
That was your doing,
And
huh?
repair it, yeah, it's pretty smart.
So there on the center of my screen indicates what's in the
problematic.
The gates are a
contract
mess.
documents.
Yeah.
No,
Some of the
inspection,
latches are
repair,
broken.
replace all hinges, entry hardware.
But it has nothing to do with this change. That
No,
was
that's
happening.
all. It's in the
No, that was in
original
that was in the original bid.
Original.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking more of whether that, I don't wanna be a pain in the butt, but whether that is a cost properly borne by this budget, or whether there's a maintenance general fund or something. I mean, it's only 13,000, but it's only 13,000 and.
Could go to
I
something
think you could make a case either way.
Part of the initial, yeah,
We really wanna make it done, okay?
yeah,
You know, I
and
mean,
uniform looking and all
we
that, so.
can't, remember, a lot of the building is a lot maintenance free, because we know that maintenance is a problem with money. So that's why this is important to do, it's 12 years old, 11 years old, to make sure it's right.
Yeah, and every single gate on that thing is with Jeff, yeah.
So this is great with the net and the safety. This is great, keep everybody safe. My next question would be, in order to keep all these people safe, they need to have some place to sit, right? So we talked about this big whole thing about bleachers and dugouts and things. Where did we, maybe the group could understand where we landed on that in the most recent proposal? What is included that we asked for last time, what's not? There were emergency boxes talked about, like
Wow.
what of all those things?
That's a great segue out of some of the minutia,
Yeah.
but to Donna's point, really, you're only paying the 15% of the 13,000. The rest of the state is bearing the cost.
So it's
that's
actually a better
positive.
deal to do it through the building project.
Right, your
So
point is
small,
valid.
nobody's gonna-
But I appreciate the fact that we need to get a little out of the weeds. We literally have hundreds of hours looking at every particular detail on the project in order to figure out where to go. But I don't want to overstep and forget to tell you some of the bigger items. On the center, or in the cover page, I identify there's two things in this cost estimate, or I should say, that are not in this cost estimate that I want to draw your attention to. The blue lights ended up costing almost $70,000. What it is, it's a structure with a camera, and it required fiber from the building all the way out to two dedicated locations. That went on the chopping blocks as one of the VE items. The athletic field lighting that we had hoped to get within the cost of the project, again, that's, that's upwards of $600,000 as an add, so that is also not in the estimate. Those are the only two particular items. All the rest of the items that are not, that may be wondered if they're in, if they're out, are listed on that page, or that second page, that speaks to, what are the list of VE items.
Where was
My computer froze.
The second page.
Two.
Ken, where was the blue light thing? I don't see the blue, I don't see it anywhere on here, the delete for it.
It's not listed as a VE item. It's listed on the front page here, under the list of things. I just didn't even bother to add it and take it out. So I list there, I say qualifications, a little tiny print.
Oh, it's a
Bottom
small
of the first
print.
group.
Yeah.
That says, you can find the cost of CJ Fucci on the next page. Athletic field lighting and blue lights and cameras are not included in the estimate.
Was the primary driving force the cost of the fiber?
And the conduit trenching and
The device itself.
It was
But certainly the fiber and the device itself was the primary part of that. I'm afraid I don't have that handy.
Okay.
But I do, just in recollection, it was 40 plus for the devices and getting the raceway and the fiber out to the location.
That's just to get the infrastructure there, or is that to hook it up?
No, that was soup to nuts.
Oh, okay.
That rough $60,000 or $76,000 cost was soup to nuts.
Each or for two?
That's for both.
For both.
So there was two, one was closer to the outbuilding location, and one was on the far side of the main driveway coming in.
That's I'm sorry, I was talking about the lights, not the blue lights, the bigger,
Softball lights?
yeah.
Is
And
there,
what was your question?
if there's anything going out to it?
Is there any way to get halfway? No, Dave?
Well, no, because it's
It's that,
the infrastructure, it's
It's
kind of
all
an
or nothing.
all-in-one with the infrastructure,
yeah, putting in the foundations and trying to get infrastructure into that is again upwards of $100K. And we felt, as we discussed the item, that that's one that'll never come. And so we didn't, spend the money on the infrastructure that we didn't feel that the group would ever actually invest in, to add those athletic field lights.
Well, okay, but that leads me to another question, because my question was going to be, what if we want to put lights in? So I don't know what group said that there wouldn't be a
It's a
desire to
group
put
of
lights.
7.
Oh, because the Board of Ed may want to put lights in, so that's why I'm asking, if we're able to someday get lights.
you'll pay for the whole thing, the infrastructure and the lights.
So my question is, what's the cost of the infrastructure? Is it 100,000 today versus maybe 500 when the work is done? For us to get that set up? And I'm just throwing numbers out, I have no
Yeah, me too.
idea.
Over
But
100.
there is a desire for lights on the softball field. We almost have to do it to meet Title IX requirements. And it's not an option for us because of the football setup. We have lights for the boys, we need lights for the girls.
I think what happened, I don't know, after hours and hours with these guys.
I know, I understand, you were calling me through the whole thing, I get it, and I'm not discounting any of that, but
Lights will never
just
happen.
hearing this for the first time, that there's no infrastructure to the lights concerns me, because we being the Board of Education, may
What do you want to sacrifice?
most definitely want lights.
What do you want to sacrifice for it?
I don't know, I'm just hearing this for the first time, that
Well,
if we
no,
don't
I-
do it, that the discussion was made that the group wouldn't want lights, but the group would want lights, so what does that, is
I
it too
voted
late?
for lights, but the group here voted for no lights.
But
Well,
I'm not talking about this group,
hold
I'm
on.
talking about the group that ultimately is gonna end up responsible for this field, that has talked about having lights for the girls softball for probably upward of 10 years.
Susan,
Yes,
the building committee voted on priorities. The first one was the field, the second one was the building, the third one was the lights.
all right.
So
And I understand, I'm not asking for lights,
No, I
I'm just
understand.
asking
I understand,
for
but that's how
a
that
better understanding,
conversation
because this is
came
the first
about.
time I'm hearing that part of it, so I'm just caught a little off guard that that was decided, that's all.
It's a lot to prepare for, probably half.
It's more to prepare for if the field's already laid out and done and we have to go back, so
That's-
that's why I'm
It's
asking.
almost impossible with all the turf down.
It probably is, but it doesn't matter at this point because the choice was not to go with lights. So now we're in a position where here's our budget, this is how much we have to spend. They were, and I voted for the lights last time, but they were voted out. So to go back is impossible. It truly is, otherwise you have to go.
Well,
Fuji-
something's gotta give.
Well, I'll tell you
Yeah.
what happens is Fuji starts on the old job, their old contract tomorrow, and we have no field.
I know, I'm not suggesting
I know, you're
that.
right.
Stop
I-
that, Gary, I'm
I know.
not suggesting we stop anything.
I know.
I'm just a little frustrated that the decision was
I agree
made,
with
the
you.
group wouldn't want lights when the group does in fact want lights. The group that will inherit this field does want lights, that's all I'm
But
saying.
I just voted again, I voted for lights, but at the same time, it's a committee that votes what they want, what they don't want, and I accept it like everybody else, and maybe if somebody else gets
I
voted,
think-
we can get money from the
I-
state.
We've
I
agree with
also,
you.
we've also had conversations here that, for instance, this year, softball season started, what, 2 weeks ago, right? And ends, when, Mike, May,
The third weekend in May,
third week in May.
just before
There's a
Memorial Day.
very,
so-
very, very small window there. And believe me, I coach girls, so I'm with you. There's a very, very, and you can't use them in April. You freeze your rear end off.
Right,
You can't
So
play that late.
there's a very small window there where lights would be practical to use.
Well, but that shouldn't be the, I mean, I'll defend. I mean, it came down to the choice of what the building
Well,
committee would
I,
accept.
yeah, but then I'm
So-
thinking that's
But
why
that,
lights
you know,
became the third priority.
That's what, it did. I
Yeah.
agree with you, but it wouldn't matter how many hours it is.
there's just certain statutes and laws that have to be followed when decisions like that are being made, is my point, and you need to consult with the people that are held accountable for those consequences, that's all I'm saying.
And to, and to
You can
cover us,
see by the effort put
Yeah,
into
that's
the
what-
value engineering process, how deep we've delved into try to find
I
dollars.
understand and I
To
respect
put it-
that, I
to-
do.
To put the infrastructure in, you'd be looking, you'd be giving up significant scope of work elsewhere. The last thing I'm gonna have to unload on Mike over there is, there are no benches in my estimate.
Benches or bleachers?
Sorry, bleachers.
But that, I think, hopefully, maybe Mario and Ed, that would be a good time to lead into,
please.
please, the letter, that, the request for the
Yeah,
money for
yeah.
that, and for
So-
those things, please.
I'll lead Ed into the conversation, okay? Although there's some things missing here, not lights, there is gonna be an opportunity to add things. And, we have, both parties have contingencies, which may or may not be there at the end.
As soon as we get through the earthwork part, right, you got $150,000 in
Right.
savings potential.
Right.
Getting through the earthwork.
Right, I mean, if they breeze through the earthwork, boom, you got bleachers, right? If we make it through the rest of the project, taking down buildings, maybe you have money for bleachers and other things. And most of all is our conversation regarding the Eversource rebate, which I will let Ed tell you about.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
He looks surprised.
You weren't ready. You weren't
I
ready.
wasn't ready. So, in the beginning of the project, we filed with Eversource for a rebate of all the services that we can get from them. It's $774,000. We have submitted the first half from the high school building. All those forms have been submitted by SLAM to them. We're waiting to get that idea of what that is. So we met with the mayor on that money. She would like to put the money back into our project. Okay? And we came up with a list of items that were cut that could go back into the project.
But for the benches, just so everybody knows.
Let him finish, if
Oh, I
you're
thought he
gonna
was
read the
done.
letter.
No, I'm heading nothing.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought, oh, you had to get
No, I
out.
don't think he's done,
Oh,
'cause,
just handing this up.
oh, good.
The items that were
Is
presented.
that that's a letter that was requested, could
Well-
you read that out loud for us?
When you get
Oh,
a
is that what-
decision on the,
Yeah, it's,
Eric, can you read out loud?
Just for
well,
clarification,
we can get the money now, but a lot of the stuff we can't do until the project's over.
Sure, can't
Okay,
Because we can't commingle, because this money has to go to the city. If it went to us, they would take it off our reimbursement.
I'll wait till everybody gets this. All right, so as
Sure,
a matter,
if you can,
you have any
any
more?
way we can
Yeah.
throw, like,
Coming around,
Share.
coming around.
Doug and I can change
Get it down, please.
all right, so as a matter of record, this was attached to an email that Ed sent to the mayor,
It was delivered.
hand delivered to the mayor, and was discussed in person with the two of us
Right.
and a couple other members of the staff down there. So these are, she asked for some wish items for us to use this rebate money for. And you can see number one is the auto shop. I won't read them all, but that's totals $81,226. That's to get our second lift and all the necessary attachments to use in the curriculum, okay? The second one is a building, which outside the project, that building becomes a much lower price, right? It's outside the project, that building's now built with prevailing wage and so on and so forth. So that's another item. The bleachers that you see there, 3 permanent, 2 movable. And of course, we gotta pay the city back for the sewer connection fee. None of this is written in stone. The mayor has committed with, to be fair, the Board of Finance approval, that this money comes back to us.
And you have that in writing?
We do
No,
not have that in writing, but we will follow up. I
That's
actually
why we
sent an
have
email today. So in other words, just because you're not seeing it in this budget doesn't mean it's never gonna happen. Lights, like you said,
right,
once the horse is out of the barn, it's out of the barn. It's hard to go back.
that's, I mean, I don't know, but O&G has lights they could roll down there. I mean, worst case scenario, lights can be
They
rented.
do it for you, sucker.
I mean, it doesn't look nice,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm just trying to think outside the box. I'm not comfortable with the fact that we're shutting out lights completely. But if there's
No,
options,
I think you're right. If the girls wanna have a senior night some year,
or host a tournament,
Or
or a
host a
weekend tournament, or
tournament, you
something, I
can-
wanna be able to say, yes, we can provide that.
yes, we can. We could do that. We got power out there.
Yeah.
We got power out there.
Well, those generators they're self.
Yeah, that's true, you're generating.
That, right, they're on generator.
Right, that's true. So, listen, I wanted them too. I wanted everything. But we just can't have everything. Go ahead, get back to you.
Back to me.
No, you.
Dan, so what happened the last time we had this big time crunch for the decision on the bathrooms, that we were gonna take the fixtures out of, we were gonna use them out in the new concession stand, 'cause it was the only exterior bathrooms. It was a big rush. What ended up happening? Could you give the group, where are we at on that?
More to come next week.
Right.
Well, do we
The
have
short answer
bathrooms or do we?
We're opening up the slab of the existing building, and we're putting in the sweeps to get the infrastructure from the existing building out to the new structure. And we're bringing the plumbing under slab into the existing structure, into that area, so that you can put restrooms there. Should you not put restrooms out in your outbuilding, you will have the opportunity. You know, I'm at a point in construction where I have to do the underground, and those are the two components that we're putting in the underground. We're taking utilities in case you do build bathrooms in there, and a concession stand which has a sink. But we're also taking that raceway the pipe and the sleeve to get from the existing building out, so that if you end up with bathrooms out in the field, we're prepared to bring that.
So if this were not to happen and the fields are built and we were to roll, there are no outdoor bathrooms as of the base bid plus the $6 million project?
Currently, if no one gives me otherwise direction, we will be putting the 2 bathrooms where they were originally intended to go.
You are bringing them back to where they were?
Yep.
Is that an additional cost to the project because we've already changed it out once and changed it back, or?
We haven't incurred any additional costs. We are gonna remove that section of slab, put in that extra little sweep to get stuff out of the building. But we always had taking the slab up and putting in the pipes to get to that area as part of your contract. So there's.
When those bathrooms move outdoors, does that leave the storage area hindered in any way, shape, or form?
Repeat, please?
So if we do get the 774, we move the bathrooms outside, does that leave the storage area hindered in some way because it had?
We met with Dean.
Yeah,
We know what he wants.
So,
How far to go.
we were gonna discuss this next week, so I'll
Finish
try.
this first.
I know.
Then go to the next
We were
one.
gonna discuss this next week, so let me just put it in a little box.
Okay.
we're working, now that 774, we know we can never get the money in time to do things in the logical manner that we would like to. So we met with Dean, we met with Mike, we're working on a plan where we could make do with bathrooms inside, just inside the building. And don't keep in mind, this is just really for football, right? Little bit for soccer. So we're working on a plan where we could just use bathrooms just inside the locker room, and try not to build something and then take it apart.
That's where I was going.
Because it's terribly frustrating, waste of money. So we think we'll have more on that next week.
Okay, thanks, Mario.
Okay, so really, I could go through each of the minutia items. I feel compelled to tell you the ones that I feel are significant. And so that is a couple of things. One, out at the JV baseball field, there's no dugouts. They're not really, well, they're shelters, all right? They have a solid roof and they have posts and they have fence. We had to pull those out of the JV baseball field, just as a cost savings. On the positive side, in the varsity baseball, the desire was to have the larger dugout areas, and so the larger dugout areas are included in the estimate.
What about the softball field, are there dugouts in the softball field?
Really, there's not a lot of other significant changes. One that is currently included in the estimate that will, it's notable, is that you have one sidewalk that weaves its way around the back of the varsity softball field. So that if you're, I guess we should take you to a drawing to understand it better.
Yeah, check your drawing, guys, that you know.
Oh, yeah, you guys all have these plans right in front of you. So, if I was to be walking along the sidewalk that gets you from the set of stairs that is on the southwest corner of the Daily Drive parking lot, and I chose to go up those set of stairs, what contemplated and again included in this estimate is a savings to remove the pedestrian light poles that were intended to light up that walkway that walks around the back of that field. You still have light that walks you through the campus in the middle of the campus between the softball and the main, the varsity baseball and multi-purpose. You still have lights that takes you down the main thoroughfare between all the fields. And of course, you have lights that get you up the ramp and to these field openings and then along the stadium field that you have currently. I think as you move forward in time and this project comes to closure and you're walking out there and you're wondering what was removed, I think the only sense or feel that you'll have is that the JV baseball field is not as elaborate as as the varsity field. It's not as elaborate as the varsity baseball field. Both of those fields have very nice dugouts. They have very nice chain link protection. They're full size, the foul poles, everything is varsity level. Other than that, there's just a lot of little things. I could walk through any one in particular if you read through the list and I could explain what it is. But we are at a point on the project where the trades need to move. We are at a point where the synthetic turf materials need to be released. The Liberty landscaping materials, which include a myriad of products, have 16-week lead times. We need to release these trades and know that we're building the project as you see it. This is an incredibly large amount of synthetic turf area. It's a beautiful campus with a lot of athletic benefits here.
So you said the varsity baseball team is like elite. What about the softball field?
Same,
That's the same.
pretty much
So-
mimics the
So
baseball.
the baseball and the softball are equal.
Pretty much,
It's the JV that's
yeah.
just a
Right, your
little.
field that was way down by the Daily Drive bubble
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
not as extended. It doesn't have dugouts.
Yeah, actually, I kind of call that the municipal field,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's,
JV ones?
yeah, the one near the,
Yeah,
the one,
yeah.
yeah, the one nearest the
It was
apartments.
like a practice field.
The one nearest the apartments, it's up to Mike, of course, but I view that as the JV facility. And I think it's only right that there's a, not a pecking order, but, that the complex is nicer at the high school level to give those kids who are in the middle school level something to strive for, to play on the bigger fields and the nicer fields. And, I mean, gosh, it's awfully nice for a middle schooler. So,
I was gonna say, you're not really choosing
No.
between a,
no,
a
it's just,
Cadillac and
it's,
a.
it's,
yeah.
right, instead of having a dugout, it just, you walk behind the fence like we have done for.
And there's a bench there, there's
Oh, yeah,
benches
sure,
for them,
of
so they
course.
still will have
Yeah.
somewhere to
Yeah,
sit.
it just doesn't have,
Hang
it
it
just doesn't have a
behind
roof.
somebody.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
No, it's gonna
That's
be,
good to
it's gonna be a wonderful
The
complex.
complex is gonna be,
It'll be
it's
beautiful.
unbelievable, it's really unbelievable.
Yeah, we're putting benches, yeah.
So where that
Benches
light
we
is
use for
not,
soccer.
Yeah.
What's that?
Portable
you're
benches,
taking a
that's all you need.
light away from where there's stairs?
No,
No,
at the top of the, so if you look at the enlargement on the monitor, this little dot is a light fixture.
Okay,
That light fixture, along with the 6 others that follow this path,
yep.
would not go in. So the last light in the sequence, this light goes in. And that would be value engineering item number 19.
So,
So that's right near the,
Oh, and
the driveway and the parking lot, right?
if I can, I should make sure that you guys are aware that,
That, there'll be lighting there in the parking lot and the, and the,
and the sidewalk,
driveway.
right, if you're walking from the parking area, you're following the sidewalk that's not up the top of the retaining wall where the plane surface is, you're walking along the side of the road, and that is all lit, and then you have the opportunity to walk all the way to school in a well-lit environment.
The stair is not, there is nothing for someone to use the stair for.
after dark, right.
Right. It's there just to go to the softball field, and we said to
well,
ourselves,
but it
that-
could be that when no one's around, someone might find themselves there.
That's probably gonna happen.
They're gonna find themselves a lot of
But
places.
for that purpose, there is general light, if someone
There's
wanted
general
to
light.
General light.
do something
Yeah.
mischievous, there is general,
There
it's not
really-
going to be pitch black.
There's really probably a light right at the bottom of the stairs in the parking lot.
I promise my last hard question of the night. So, the $775,000 makes this a complete, almost everything we actually wanted. There was a discussion about if we couldn't have everything we wanted, not having all turf. So and I'm sure you guys looked at this, and I'm just asking how you arrived at the decision not to have the JV field not be turf. Because if you had gone not turf on the JV field, you really could have probably a lot of these other things. Granted, if we get this, we get most of them. I'm just asking. We talked about it.
We gonna have turf on all the fields.
Well, I think it comes back to the committee's vote.
Yeah.
Again, the priorities were turf, building, lighting. So,
We went down, well, the path was taken to go down that. I said from day one, we have budgets, they don't mean anything, so let's vote for what we want. The problem we have today is, it's taken months because we had to go to a referendum. We're at the point now where we're either gonna have turf or we're gonna have grass. Because the contracts, you can talk about Fuji's contract, but, it's taken so long and so much pricing to get this under $6 million. You did look at getting rid of turf, and the numbers don't pay for $700,000 because everything still has to be for infrastructure. Walks, tie downs, netting, everything, it's really just the square footage of the turf.
and you're reintroducing irrigation.
And you're reintroducing all those other things, so.
I was just asking for the answer,
That's why I'm
that's all.
trying to answer it in a
Yeah,
way that
I
makes
appreciate
sense. That there would be a credit, I mean, you even looked at changing the value, the density of the turf itself, but the credit they give back, as usual, is not what you expect it to be. And then unfortunately, it's timing, I mean, I wasn't aware, but it was talked about, Fuji's contract requires them to start tomorrow. They gotta start tomorrow or change orders come in for extras, and it's just an accumulation of everything. And that's why I will defend them, and I know you're not saying anything negative, I know you're not, that they fought, I know he was real nervous. Dan seemed nervous at how they get to a number that was promised. And that was the conversation, and the text messages, and how to communicate it, and make
We've
sure you
had-
have all the detail necessary, make sure every breakdown is there, so everybody's questions can be answered.
And we're at the point now that to try to take scope out is actually going to net more, a larger cost.
I wasn't
Yeah, no,
suggesting.
I'm just,
no,
no,
we're
just
at-
because
you're
it's
right.
kind of a hard concept to wrap your head around, but it's just like that,
For everybody
that
else,
time,
it's
money,
understand.
like adjustment right now is just, we're at that threshold point where to try to spend more time to make a different decision is gonna be more costly than the outcome of this.
Just to put it in perspective, since February, and I have documentation of every email, 52 emails we've had through everybody going through every single piece of this project.
But I don't think they understand the backstory, that's why we're trying to get that
Yeah,
out,
it's just,
is understand, it sucks.
Yeah, no,
I know you know that because you're in the business.
this is,
I get it.
this is every email that we have gone through.
It's a good thing I didn't copy him on everything.
Yeah. The pile would be up here.
There's
I'll tell
probably
you
a
a
lot
funny
more
story.
going on.
When I was in Region 15, Louis Sparrow, may rest in peace, came to me and says, Ed, 5 years ago, we discussed something about this. I said, hold on. Thinking, oh, there it is. You never know when you're gonna need it. And these are every email since January 31st that we've gone through. And the emails are 4 pages or 5 pages. So this group, unbelievable. We've been dealing. One day, I had to leave because my wife called me and dinner was on the table. And it was 5:15. And after dinner, I called Mario and he was still there at 6:30.
Yeah.
And Dave was there with him at 6:30. So
Ready to
this,
punch each
this,
other.
Yeah, Mario was yelling at me.
this project we've gone through. And Gary is,
Mario sends me a text message around day.
Yeah, I'm excited to get this approved, and I'm excited for the text messages to stop.
I have a question, on the turf field, the multi-purpose field, is it gonna have the lines or just the tick marks?
That's next steps,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. Well, if this gets approved tonight, we're gonna sit down with Field Turf and Mike and whomever else and figure out what's lined, what's ticked, what's all that stuff.
Doesn't that influence though their
no,
number?
No,
That's part of the.
that's part of your pricing, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
So more inlaid lines
yeah,
cost
like the
same
actual
as
lines
ticks?
instead of the
Yeah.
tick marks.
I know, they're just, it's the same cost. Ticks
As
is
long
a
as you,
smaller
as long as you
amount,
make
right?
all those decisions before
Yeah.
they install it.
I mean,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah,
Right, and
yeah.
that's what we're at now, is we need these shop
Yeah.
run processes to get.
It's a small number.
Field Turf has been very good to us. The high school field,
Go with all lines.
it is unbelievable. Just put in perspective, because we have maintenance on that field. Naugatuck didn't have maintenance on their field. They're replacing the whole field within 9 years, and this is 10 years.
We talked about before, I mean, are all sports gonna be represented? Because we did talk about
they'll either have lines or tick marks.
Okay.
Yeah,
and what's lacrosse and
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it
Field
only
hockey,
makes sense not to muddle it up too much, right? I mean,
yeah,
so,
but we have a soccer field and I mean,
Yeah.
lacrosse is growing.
Yeah.
So I get you, but as long as there's something.
So I have a question
Sorry,
about
Mike.
tick marks, okay? And that, can it be lined like a grass field can be lined, that's why you have the tick marks?
Yes.
And then it,
that's what tick marks are
then
for,
it
you
just goes away,
you just connect
because
it.
it's like
Yeah, correct.
a stripe that you can get, okay?
Super quick question, so I know you guys have spoken with the mayor and that's great that this is all in there, all the stuff we want. But obviously, looking at the bottom items on spreadsheet line 17, down, that's stuff that has to kind of be done when you guys are doing all the ripping up now and pouring, so you're not gonna drive an excavator over Field Turf,
I lost it.
which is for the pad and for the concession stand and there, so are we assuming that this is a go because she gave you her word? There's no way
No,
you guys
well,
are gonna
we-
be going
no.
over the new turf.
We hope, I guess the best way to answer that is,
Just remember, this doesn't come through till October.
no, that's
Right.
correct. Yeah, September-ish,
Yeah,
October,
yeah.
unless they divide it
Time
in
is of the
half.
essence.
Oh, right, and plus we're hoping to be at a point where you're making a decision on a foundation. But the foundation access and the ability to construct that building is down the center of the project.
Yeah. In the center of the project,
You're not
you
driving
can fit
on
a,
On an access way for vehicles, so
Yeah.
you're not driving over the fields.
yeah.
So down the
that's-
center of
While you
this,
guys are there, it's a lot easier to do it in process.
But we just
It
can't
is.
afford it right now.
Yeah.
No, that,
Hopefully
I
we
get
can.
that, I was just saying if Ed and Mario were gonna try to pin her down even more, something in writing, so that it doesn't delay you guys in
Yeah.
trying to come to an access road
Yeah,
and
well,
all that stuff.
I gotta say, like I said, on numerous occasions, she's told us that's exactly what she wants the money to do.
and recognize that you don't have access to those funds until the contract work is finished.
Right.
Otherwise, the gross value of the
Literally, as
project
a
goes
group,
up.
have to make
Oh, gotcha.
the action that you are done spending money using the state funds.
Correct.
All right, so
Until they move forward.
the mayor's made it clear she wants this project for all the Republicans on the board. They have an ear to the mayor.
This
Please.
Republican doesn't.
Well, forever, some that do. I know that, talking to Paul Danzel, that she really wants this, but there's no guarantee, but please, if you can, if you really want this, just try to get in her ear. Armin's close to it too, and anybody else, and just try to convince her that it's post haste. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, it is what it is, but, you know, still the Republican.
So, as the ONG guys have said, we have money to do all these things. There's a cash flow problem, right? Some of the money will not be released in time to do some of the things. So we just gotta try to figure it out best we can.
And you guys are pretty good at it. So I have to say, I have confidence that things will come together. I didn't mention earlier that we are bringing to the site pad location, we're tying the sanitary into the sanitary system that's under the fields. That price is included in this estimate. Bringing Raceway from the existing building out to the future outbuilding for the power is in the estimate. And bringing the water service out to the building as also to be used for the field irrigation part is all in the estimate. So we thoughtfully put everything you need to put that building in at whatever stage you can start digging the foundation.
You know, if we have to put a building, one of those,
Carefree small building.
Yeah.
Coder Farms.
Culver Farm building, we
knows
do that,
those.
that's all,
Yeah.
you know?
Do what you gotta do.
They're really nice.
there's
There's
a
some
lot
right
of
up on
things we
Route
could
4,
do.
those
Yeah,
sheds up there.
it's just, the whole,
We're gonna find a way.
yeah, the whole project is just gonna be, after it's done, spectacular.
Anybody else, anything else?
I have
assume the
two
video-
motions.
Because I'm gonna make a motion for some action. Who doesn't like some action?
Did the video inspection, I assume video inspection of the sewer line was suitable to say, just line it and call it a day?
Yes, we
Yeah,
had a follow-up meeting with WPCA.
Wasn't cheap either.
They required us to line the pipe, even though it's in pretty good condition, but they required that. They also required restoration of the two manholes, so you will have long-lasting manholes below your structure.
That's good.
Yeah,
Be able to sleep at night now.
And actually, the two prices that we did get, kudos to Ed as the vendor that he hooked us up with originally, that did the original lining, was cheaper than the vendor that we had going through CPA.
yeah, the same vendor we did when we did the field 10 years ago.
The stadium field. Okay, gonna make a motion to authorize ONG Industries to proceed with the work as described in PRO 87, athletic field revision to synthetic turf with VE selections as noted in ONG's Estimate 2 Revision 4 with trade backup, specifically to authorize ONG Industries to authorize CJ Fucci to release their subcontractors Field Turf, Liberty Landscaping to procure materials in accordance with the change proposals as modified of $1,805,171,000 and $2,794,620,000 respectively. Do we have a second on that? Patty, second. Discussion, right?
Yep,
Discussion?
Is Eagle fencing not included in there because you're still working on that?
correct.
Correct. Is correct on. Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can we get a show of hands, please? Okay. Very good. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.
Next one.
Okay, number 2. Make the motion to authorize ONG Industries to issue CJ Fucci a notice to proceed with a not to exceed change amount of $427,251 for the additional CJ Fucci self-performing work identified in ONG Estimate 2 Revision 4 with the trade backup. Do I have a second on that? Patty? Any questions, guys? Everybody knows what that is? It's the work that CJ Fucci is gonna do on their very own with their forces. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Nothing. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, we appreciate that. Hard work on the team's part, and I want to appreciate Gary coming in, and he didn't bring any food, but he was good.
Well, that's because Mr. told about the pizza.
Can we have that in writing?
I always want the
I always
pizza.
would.
Find myself
That is good,
responsible
yeah.
for providing food,
You wouldn't believe it.
It was Vinny
Yeah,
pizza, so it was pizza.
but I can't afford Marzano.
Appreciate everything. For the good of the order, Doug,
Thank you for everything.
Good job, thank you.
Case.
I'm good. All set.
Thank you for all your hard work and time and effort. Wasn't smooth, but you guys did a great job. Thank you.
I had an afro when I started.
Yeah,
Just really quick, I mean, we see a lot of these get installed, and I know some of you may feel some things are not everything you wanted, but what you are getting is, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's what a lot of public schools in the state do not have, so should be really proud of what you're getting.
Nothing from me.
Thank you, everybody.
just to let you know, today was Connecticut Construction Career Day in Meriden. I was there with 11 of our high school kids, which was great. They go through, and I have pictures with the kids, so it was great. They go through a plumbing class, and then a electricity class, and kids were great. Those 11 are the same ones who are taking the 120-hour class that we started with the union and Yolanda Rivera, who's great to us. So, great seeing all the kids there, so it was good.
We're gonna triple that next year, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully, yes. So,
Great meeting, thank you guys for all your hard work.
Thanks, guys, for the hard work.
Thanks, guys.
For sure to be here.
Thanks for letting me pop in, and thank you for all the effort on
Yeah.
this piece of it, all of it, but this piece was huge.
I voted against it.
next meeting is next Thursday. You can see each other again. So can I, it is now 6:33, motion to
Oh,
Gary and Donna.
oh.